Hey everyone, thanks so much for joining me today. I want to give you a quick garden tour. I'm a new gardener in Central Florida. I'm about 20 minutes outside of downtown Tampa, and I want to show you what you can do as a new gardener in Florida, and also that you don't have to do everything at once like I've been trying to do. I was going to wait until my garden was done to do a tour, but I decided that I would do the progress instead because it's not perfect. It's far from perfect. And a lot of times you see these gardening videos and you think, wow, how long did it take for them to get there? And it takes a long time. I started mine about 8 months ago. We did not have a garden at all here. We had a giant laurel oak that ended up rotting, and we had to have that cut down. I'll show you the stump from that. It was humongous. And when we cut that down, we opened up the entire yard to sunlight, which we had none of before. So I decided to start gardening and plant a lot of native things. I didn't know anything about gardening before. I would kill anything that I tried to plant. So YouTube has been my best resource to try and learn. So hopefully you guys will learn something from me. And you'll see that my dog, one of them at least, loves to be out here with me. And he loves to be in the garden and destroy things, eat my figs and cucumbers. And there are certain things that I just can't grow. So hang on a minute and we'll get the tour started. Okay, so here's Bear, and we call him George. He's like Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde because he's a really, really smart dog, but he's also extremely mischievous. I catch him laying in my flower beds and eating things constantly, but you know what? He's part of the family, and I want him to be out here enjoying the gardening just as much as I do. So right now he wants me to throw him the ball, which we're not going to do, but you're going to see him in a lot of videos going forward, I'm sure. So I will show you where we had the laurel oak cut down, and we are in the process right now. We had that all mulched, so that's what you see here. All this mulch is from that laurel oak, but it was not nearly enough to cover the yard. So I had to have a lot of mulch brought in, and unfortunately because of the deliveries, they could not fit, most places could not fit anything through my gate. So they would have to leave it on the other side of the gate, and I'd have to shovel it, and I was on chip drop for a couple months and I never got anything. So I ended up giving in and just having them bring me some bagged mulch. I ordered 4 pallets recently, and that's what we have left of the 4 pallets. I got them in Ace Hardware. They were really, really good about being able to put them on this side of my gate so I didn't have to shovel everything. So this back here, this is my hot mess corner. And I have my compost and potting soil, which I need more of, my extra potters back there, which I'll go through pretty soon to see what's damaged. I have some chicken wire fencing that I'm going to use to trellis some things. The giant letter D is a long story. They were changing the lights at the Home Depot, if that looks familiar to you. And my son asked if he could have it because my name is Danielle, so he brought it home for me. D for Danielle. Nice kid, right? So anyhow, I had a couple teenage high school boys come a few weeks ago, and they spread some mulch for me, and they filled up these baskets that I have. I'm probably going to put some flowers in those all around the garden just to spread it out a little bit. Back here, this is a butterfly garden that I started last year that needs to be cleaned out. So right now, we had a frost about 2 weekends ago, and that doesn't happen very often here, so a lot of things died. I'm waiting for a lot of things to come back, and I was going to wait until everything came back and then show you guys like a real video of a beautiful garden, but that's not real. So I don't want to discourage you from actually starting a garden if you think everything has to be perfect. So I'll get this all cleaned out and plant some more things in there. I have some more seeds coming. My bee balm over here was huge, and that is going to get all cut back and cleaned out, but this will look beautiful again probably in a matter of an hour and a half, 2 hours. So it's really not bad to clean up. I've got some milkweed growing there for the caterpillars. This is all my basil that got killed in the frost, and I forgot to put that out. The county will come once a week and pick up your yard clippings if you put them in that container, and I forgot to put it out this week because our garbage days changed. So I will get it next week, but I'm actually thinking about making a little fire pit so that, oh, look at we caught him in the act. This is why we can't have nice things, and also why we can't have figs or cucumbers, because he believes that it is his breakfast. So I just had purchased some shampoo ginger, which I had a hard time finding, and I purchased it, and then we got the frost about like a week and a half later. I thought we were in the clear, but I am not a native Floridian, and gardening is new to me, so lesson learned. This is my pile of compost that is not composting, so I think what I'm going to do is make a burn pile, and we are going to start burning a lot of the browns in here and then raking a lot of the leaves that we have and using that in the compost instead. All of those cherries, the ground tomatoes that I have there, I just threw everything in there. I'm pretty sure I'm going to burn all that with my burn pile. So back here, I put this fencing up around this tree. This tree probably isn't going to last us too many more years, but I put this fencing up around it because I had purchased a pepper plant, and I know that they like to grow up trees, but I don't know that my pepper plant really liked that frost. We covered things, and I'm just waiting to see what's going to come back. It does look like it's in okay shape in some spots, so in a couple more weeks I'll start cutting things back to see if they're going to survive or not. But right now, next week, we're going to have another cold night, so I don't want to do anything yet. That's an airplane wing, a portion of one. My son is a pilot, and he likes to bring things home, and he actually made a really, really cool shelf out of the other part of it, and had plans for this one, but just hasn't gotten around to it yet. So there it lives. There's another shampoo ginger back there. That one's doing much better than the other one, but again, I think they'll be fine once I trim them back. That's a wheelbarrow that was here that was broken, and I planted some succulents in that. Another butterfly garden, and I'll tell you, right after I made these two butterfly gardens, I mean, the butterflies, it was like they put out an SOS to all their friends because they were just filled with butterflies. That wagon wheel back there, my son went to the dump, and there was a man throwing two of them away, and he said that they were from an old fire truck, and my son brought them both home. I have one in the front yard and one back here. I did some mosaics for a while, and the top of that one broke out, so I figured I would throw it in my garden. And of course, you will see Bear's toys all over the place in this yard. We have some feral cats that like to come through the yard, so we just put that there to block it. I don't mind that they're here, but there was one that got stuck under the fence there, so we just put that there so that they don't get stuck. I have some strawberries that did survive the frost. They have a little bit of frost damage here, but they're pretty frost tolerant, at least for like not a really hard frost. So I don't mind leaves and things. Again, you know, that will compost down, and that's fine. So rather than raking it up and making everything look great, I would rather have good soil. So this is a guava, which got a lot of frost damage. Again, we'll just leave it and see what happens in a few weeks. I also have some citrus here. I don't remember if this is a hybrid. Some you can get lemon and lime together. You can also get what they call snowbirds, so that they are ready to pick in the winter. So when the snowbirds are here, the citrus is ready. I had a poor little tomato plant that I just bought, and he obviously did not survive. That's a volunteer papaya. I would come out here and just throw the papaya seeds, and so that one grew. My banana plants are pretty sad. Really, the frost really got them. But the good news is that they all have new growth. All but one have some new growth in there. Let me show you here. You can see that's a new growth coming out. That sun glare, I'm not sure that you can really see, but I do have a lot of green coming back in, and this is only, you know, almost 2 weeks later, so I'm really happy about that. You can see where we got the mulching done to, and how much we have left to go, which hopefully we'll be able to get that done this weekend. As I said, I didn't do this in phases. I did it, you know, all kind of at once because of cutting down that huge tree. I didn't really have the option. I had a ton of mulch and I had to get it down. So That's some sugar cane. I like to get things that I never thought I could plant. Being from the Northeast, there are a lot of things that we wouldn't even consider planting, such as the tropicals and citrus and things. And then there were a lot of things that I never even heard of before, like this. This is a miracle fruit, and you're supposed to be able to eat the fruit from that, and then you could go eat a lemon, and it would make it taste like lemonade. So when that starts to fruit, that will be really fun. I can never say the name of this. This is a grape that they use for jacobacata. I think that's how we say it. So it is a grape that people will use to make wine or to eat right off of the plant. And I learned about that from Green Dreams YouTube channel. So I had a bunch of bitter melon growing along the dog pen, and I left it because it would camouflage the dog pen. And I was okay with it, but then it started to, like everyone tells you, it started to be extremely invasive and come out and get into my flower beds. So I cut that, and now it's dead, and so I have to pull all of it off, but I really need to get it from the source and make sure that it's dead and pull it down, but it is taking over the fence. So here you can see we have to put the landscaping fabric down and mulch. I try to use cardboard wherever I can instead of the landscaping fabric, so that's why you'll see some of that laying all over the place. I did clear this one out the other day that was being invaded. I had some Ethiopian kale in here, and it just got humongous. That's actually what you see over there. All that green was the Ethiopian kale, and it was just way too much. It was growing absolutely everywhere. So, and not really producing anything that I wanted. We were having that kale like every night for dinner, and I still had a ton. So I pulled it out. So I put some new plantings in here. I have some tomatoes in there, some carrots in there. So we'll see how all that does. I have to get something for the in-between, between the flower bed and between the dog pen. I'm hoping you can hear me. My central air unit just turned on. So I have to be able to get all that grass out of there. I actually think I might just put some pavers back in there so that over top of the landscaping fabric, this is the landscaping fabric here, and the leaves, as you can see, are really, really dropping. So here we go with some more things that I planted. I have some squash in there that I'm going to vine up through the dog pen, and that's really what I wanted to keep the dog pen fencing for instead of putting an actual fence up, because I wanted things to be able to vine through there. So this is broccoli, which is really going crazy right now in every which direction, but I just learned that you can't really grow broccoli when it's hot because it likes to bolt, and that's exactly what mine kept doing. So I planted some Swiss chard next to it, which the Swiss chard does really well. All of these pots that I have throughout the yard, I'm going to put flowers in, and that way I can just move them around. The bees really, really liked all my basil that I had, and that's why I really let it grow huge, because there were hundreds of bees on it every day. So my cabbage has been done well. It didn't care about the frost. I put some more tomatoes in there, and I'm gonna stake those up. So this is the base of the laurel oak that I had, and I don't know that you can really get a feel for it, but it was pretty deep. The tree guys threw a rake in it, and the rot was the depth of the rake. So it is big. I think I might take that beauty berry out that I put inside of it and actually make that like a little burn pit, so I can burn all the brush and sticks and things in the yard. I have another beauty berry here that seems to have done much better than this beauty berry, but again, I'm not really worried about it as far as if it's going to come back because of the frost. So I put a couple rain barrels out through the yard so that I can water things out here in the winter. We generally don't get a lot of rain in the winter, but this winter we have had quite a few days. So this is a loquat or a kumquat, which I've never had before, but they are really, really popular here, and apparently they're supposed to be a magnificent fruit. So I saw one at the nursery, so I bought it. It hasn't done a whole lot since I've bought it, but that's okay. I haven't had it for too long, maybe about 6 months. So these are some of the logs that we had left from the tree being cut, and I thought in my head that these would be good raised flower beds and save some money, but I don't like them. And the reason that I don't is because Bear has no regard for them. He does not he does not care that they're there, and he will throw his toy in there and lay in there and try to bury his bone in there, which he doesn't usually bury bones, so that's pretty funny. But my raised beds over here, he doesn't bother. So I just ordered some more raised beds, and I don't know what we're going to do with these logs, but they really can't stay. I haven't worked much on the aesthetics of the yard, but more for the functionality, and then I'll add the aesthetics in later. But I don't like the aesthetics of them. In my head, they looked much better. So I have a bunch of stuff planted in here. I have some corn in here and radishes, which I thought the radishes would be ready by now, but they're not. Again, my poor bananas, but there is new growth up there, so I'm very, very hopeful. In here I have some Seminole pumpkins and squash and cabbage, and what else do I have in here? And more radishes. So the radishes should definitely be done pretty soon. And then this is the third log bed, as we'll call it. And this one's really taken a beating. Bear has definitely dug up some of the starters in there, bean sprouts and different things. So we'll see how they do, but I'm going to transplant a lot of this into the new beds probably next week. That was a huge log that they had left from the tree, and my son wanted it because he wanted to slice it and make a table out of it, but he hasn't gotten around to it yet. So let me not miss these here. So this is an olive tree. There was a little dead tree right behind it right there. That was some type of tea tree that I bought, but it didn't look good when I bought it, and it doesn't look good now. So I think that one we're gonna have to say goodbye to. This one here is an olive tree. So every time I walk past it, I think about extending that olive branch out to someone who may need it as far as gardening or any other thing in life. This is a pineapple guava, which I don't know what's going on there, but I moved him. He was back there by the fence, and he was like back there where that ginger is, and he did not like it. I moved it, and then he was doing better, and then the frost came, and he's not really happy. A lot of things are not happy with me right now out here. I'm gonna skip over this one here because it's just a bunch of weeds with a blueberry or blackberry in it that I'll end up moving. I have a berry in here. I don't know if that's a blueberry or a blackberry. I have some lemon balm, which I love. I love to just pull that and put it in my water. It's so good. Here's another berry, either blueberry or blackberry. The tag is down there, but I'm not going to reach down to get it. I'll probably drop the camera, and then I'll have to use my editing skills or leave it in and let you all laugh. So that's a raspberry back there, and it's okay. It tolerated the frost very well, but it is I don't know, it's just not doing a whole lot. It has grown since I've purchased it, but it's not doing a whole lot. I'm really hoping that in the spring I start to see everything. And this is a Barbados cherry, which lost most of its leaves in the frost, but it is awesome. I actually have another one of these over where I started the video that I didn't show you, but that has blossomed. It's so pretty when it blossoms. It almost looks like a cherry blossom, but it is so pretty, and that has given me fruit quite a few times. They are these little cherries that have a couple pits in them, but they are really, really good, and I've been really happy with the production considering that I just bought that in the beginning of my gardening stages, so probably about 8 months ago. I started gardening probably about May of 2021. So again, there was nothing out here, literally nothing. There was the tree and what they like to call grass here, but the reason why I took all the grass out, or I'm still in the process of it, is because we had lawn moths, they call them. So when you would walk out here, all these moths would just fly up, and I wasn't really thrilled with the idea of treating the lawn because of my pets. So and that is his log. You cannot touch it. The other day my husband was helping me mulch, and he picked it up not knowing that it was Bear's, and yeah, so Bear was not happy about that, so he was fighting him for the log. This is another fig. Would you like your log? Pick it up. he will pick that log up and he will run all around the yard with it. But right now he would like for me to throw it, which I'm not going to do. So this is another fig that Bear uses as his old country buffet. It really got hurt in the frost, but I'm hopeful because there is new growth in there, and hopefully he will take his log and go. I want you guys to actually see him take his log, because he does. He picks it up and he runs all around the yard with it. I wish he would dig for it in places where I need to plant things, because then he could just dig my holes for me, but we haven't gotten to that point yet. So my lime really got hurt. Citrus does not take the frost well, and it really got hurt. You can see a lime on the ground right there, but that's all right. There are still a bunch of them on there, so we will see what happens with that. This is a mulberry tree, and this has lost almost every single leaf, but I am told that it will come back. God bless you. So we'll see, hopefully. And there's my pretty girl Sandy down there just chilling in the shade. She's actually really mad at me. She did not want to come outside, but I told her that she needed to. So we are going to put a walkway in here. I know she has a challenging time walking in general. She's an old lady and she's got arthritis and things. So we really need to put a pathway in here for her to be able to walk on. She is laying next to a pile of cinder blocks that were pushed up against the fence when we bought the house, and if you have cinder blocks laying around, you know that they're like impossible to get rid of. So I'm not really sure how we're going to get rid of them, but I am probably going to end up just lining them up against that short fence back there, and then maybe growing sweet potatoes or something in there. There was a gap between the fence and the ground, and apparently they do that here in Florida because of winds. So if you have high winds or a hurricane coming, it allows the wind to come through so it doesn't tear down your fence, hopefully. But the problem is that obviously we have dogs, and the neighbors have a little dog, and the little dog would come through the fence, and my dogs would think that it was a squeaky toy. So we put up these cedar peg runners. They just have little pegs on the bottom, and as you can see, I just put these in 2 weeks ago, and you know, some of them are really fallen, so I've got to reposition them and try to get them back in there. So this poor papaya right here, he was grown from seed and he was doing really good, and he had beautiful leaves, and then the frost came and destroyed all the papayas on it. They are rotting, so I think I'm gonna have to actually cut the branches down this week. I'm gonna have to look and see what I have to do, but I think I'm gonna have to cut them down to, you know, right about there. I don't want rotting fruit out here. I don't want to attract any rodents. We do have those feral cats that I had mentioned before, which I'm totally fine with, and I have not, knock on wood, seen any rodents out here, but I also don't want to encourage them to come by having all this rotting fruit. So let me take you through some of my beds here that I've been working on. We are going to be mulching in here probably this weekend. We'll get all the rest of this done and all of that up through the lanai. So everything up until the dog fence there will be done. So that'll look really nice once we're done. So when I first started gardening back in May, I had bought a couple of these raised beds, and I bought some soil from Home Depot, and when I put it in, these two beds are constantly filled with grass. Constantly. So there must have been grass seed in those, even though I put some liners in the bottom. Lesson learned. So I'm really going to try to get my compost pile going so that I don't have to rely on buying things. The ones that I purchased from Ace Hardware have not given me any problems yet, but be very cautious of that because there was grass seed in there and I was constantly picking it out, and now I've just let it go since I don't have seeds in there anymore. Anything that I've planted has come up or it hasn't come up, so I'm not weeding it as of now because this stuff isn't going to stay in here too much longer. So I have some broccoli in here, which I do come out and clip usually about once a week. I'll come out and have broccoli as a side for dinner, and this is actually a newer broccoli that hasn't produced anything for me yet. That's some kale. These are in there. He's sniffing to see if there are any cucumbers because he loves cucumbers, and if there are, he'll just help himself like he is right now. You know, I guess he hasn't eaten breakfast yet. So Bear, could you not I'm telling you, I plant some for us and some for him. So these are romaine lettuce I bought at Costco last week. I didn't have any romaine lettuce, and I used the lettuce, and then I came out here and I just stuck them in the ground. And I don't know if you can really see that or not. That's a bean plant that he's eating, just in case you're wondering. So I don't know if you can really see it, but the darker green in the center is where it's regrowing. So you can get a couple cuts out of that. It's called cut and come again. So you can get a couple cuts out of that. So you can do that with your lettuces. And, you know, after a few times, then the taste of it will start to diminish. But if you're just using lettuce to use lettuce, it doesn't matter if there's really a taste. So this lettuce is doing really well. I'm probably going to clip some of that for dinner tonight. And you can see when the other things start to shade that they don't grow as high. So again, I'm learning as I go. I couldn't take it all in. I take notes and things, but you're not going to remember everything. So some things are experimental. Some things I know better than to plant, you know, X with Y, but I say, hey, you know what? Let's see what happens. So this was actually humongous. I did not know that this was an indeterminate, and that means that it can grow to whatever size it wants. And bear, get out of there. And when the frost came, the whole top got frostbit, and I had to cut that back. And when I did, I left it because we actually had 2 nights of frost, and I covered it, but it still got frost. So I cut that all back because it was actually protecting what was underneath. So a lot of these have turned now, so it's going to be okay, but it is huge, so it does look like a hot mess. But as you can see, it gives a lot of tomatoes on there, and you can see here there's a new one coming in, a whole new plant down there. I was worried about it getting disease because it was so big, so I think the frost was kind of a godsend. It was God's way of telling me that I needed to trim that thing back. So I've got some squashes in here. I planted those in there yesterday. This is where that big cherry tomato was that I have over there in my burn pile, because they just would drop like crazy. You can see them, they're all over the ground, but I'm leaving them. I want them to go ahead and just compost down into the ground. These are all peppers that I grew from seeds. So when I would make a bell pepper for dinner or a jalapeno pepper, I would take the seeds and then just plant them. I didn't know how they would do, so these are really planted close together, way closer than they need to be. But then again, the frost came and it killed a lot of things, so I'm waiting to see. I'm waiting until next week, and then I'll come out and clip. But you can see here, like this one here has new, you know, it's nice and green down there, so I'm just going to clip that back. And I did see yesterday, I saw some peppers starting to come in, and then the frost came and totally killed them. But I did see yesterday there were some peppers in here. So nothing in the back row sprouted. Oh, nope, I lied. There's one back there that sprouted, and there was one over there that sprouted that I did cut to see what would happen. So it was very interesting. I covered these two, and again back here with all of this grass, like this is what we had before we had the tree cut down back here, and it's just a mess. Like, I don't like it at all. It's not soft. It's got to go. So I've got to figure out how to completely get rid of that without using any pesticides or anything else. I mean, we could, I guess, dig it up, but I'm always afraid it's just still going to come back. So I'm trying to smother it. Just some tropical stuff that we planted when we first bought this house about 3 years ago. And again, I didn't do any gardening then, so we just plopped some tropical things in there. There were bushes there, which I hated, so we plopped some tropical things in there just for a little bit of buffering. In here I have dill, and I have Swiss chard, which did absolutely fine during the frost. I came out and cut it just in case it did die, so we had that for dinner. And I have onions and garlic planted all through here, and they are doing amazing. I just planted those, so they have grown tremendously. That's my first time growing those too, so I'm not sure how it's going to go, but I'm happy so far. So this is an interesting pepper plant. I don't know what it is, but it was wrapped with the cherry tomatoes that are all over at a nursery that I go to, and I learned a lot at this nursery. And they were wrapped together, and they were in that trellis right there. So it looked like that. And the cherry tomato looked really bad. And she said to me, you can have it. She said, just pay me for the trellis. So I did. And I came home and I separated them and I pruned them, and that cherry tomato went wild and crazy, and I got, pounds and pounds and pounds of cherry tomatoes. This pepper plant, same exact thing happened. So I'm not going to take him out, even though he looks completely dead. He looked dead when I brought him home. And when I planted him, maybe about a month later, he just took off and would produce more peppers than we could handle. So I don't like hot things. And these peppers are really interesting because they are sweet peppers, but if you try them, 1 in 10 is going to be hot. So what are the chances if I come out here and eat 2 right out of the garden? One of them is always going to be hot. Not 1 in 10 for me. It's always like a 50% chance. So here I have some black-eyed Susans. This bed I have not gotten to. I'll probably do this one today or tomorrow to clear it out. I have some milkweed. I wanted to see if the milkweed was going to come back for the caterpillars, but I might just pull it. That is, I did not plant that. That is a volunteer, and there are different kinds of milkweed here. There are the milkweeds that you can plant, which are really good for the butterflies and the caterpillars. They love them. And then there's another type of milkweed that they say is okay if you can't find the other one. So last year I know there was a huge shortage of milkweed. So I started growing my own, and that's why I have that huge one over in the first butterfly garden. But we'll see what happens with that one because it did volunteer there, but I might end up pulling it. And my black-eyed Susans, they just need to be trimmed up and they'll come right back. Those are super resilient. But you can see what happened here was this is a pigeon pea. I didn't know what a pigeon pea was. And I planted it, and I didn't read about it or anything else, and it grew that big. And at one point, it was about 8 feet tall. So I would have to have my husband come out here. Well, I pulled all the peas that I could, and I took everything out of their pods, and I would do it as they were getting ready. So I have a bunch inside that I have to make, but then the frost came and completely killed the tree. So, completely killed all the leaves. So I am going to leave this one. I started some new ones because I actually think I'm going to plant these along my fence line because it really, really gave a nice buffer area. And once those get going, I might pull this because this creates a lot of shade for whatever is in here. And I'd rather not have all that shade. I would rather have things in here that can get full sun, because we are full sun over here until about 3 o'clock in the afternoon. So I really want to plant things that can use full sun and not really care about not have that shade in there. So once the other ones get started, but that grew fast. I put a seed in that bed and that thing grew like that in just a couple months. So in this bed we have some, I think I put eggplant in here. I have it all written down. I like to take a lot of notes. So I think I put some eggplant in here. That is some kind of volunteer blackberry, raspberry, blueberry, some kind of berry. And it might not actually be a volunteer. I think it was actually a branch that broke off and I just stuck it in there. And that's what happened to it. The rosemary, totally fine during the frost. Did not care at all whatsoever. So that will stay. I like to put an herb in each bed, and I had basil in there before, and I let them get really big, as I was saying, and the basil will attract the bees. And it also, I did not have a pest problem. I only had a very, very few of the big caterpillar worms, which I think are pretty cool looking. Apparently chickens love them, but I don't have any chickens. So, and I made the mistake of pruning my moringa tree. This is all stuff that I found when we were mulching the other day. It was buried behind some stuff. So it's some type of border, and I didn't decide if I was going to keep it or not yet. I'll make a decision this weekend. But I cut my moringa, Oh, look at that. Look who's caught in the act. And this is exactly why I had to order more raised beds, because he just has absolutely no regard for it. He doesn't, I don't think he doesn't destroy things, like, ever. He doesn't destroy anything in the house. He never chews shoes or anything. But I just don't think that he understands. And I think that that dirt is cool on his belly. So I don't get mad at him. And you know what? If they get squashed, I have a lot of other things that I can plant, but those raised beds are coming this weekend, so I will transfer those. And I mean, he is handsome, so how can you get mad? So this was a moringa, and I bought that just a couple months ago, and I planted it. And when I planted it, it was probably up to there. So then I had to put stakes in because it was falling over. And then before I knew it, it was, I'm not kidding, probably about 15 feet high. And then I started watching about how to prune it. And they said, oh, don't let it get that high. You won't be able to get to the leaves. So I cut it back. And about 2 weeks later, the frost came. So we'll see what happens with it. I started some from seed inside just in case I really destroyed that one, which I don't think I did. So we'll see what happens with it. But these were some of the branches that I just stuck in dirt, and I'm gonna see what happens with these clippings. And if they don't grow, they go in the fire pit. And if they do grow, then fantastic. But I have some from seed. Like I said, I watch a lot, I read a lot. I know the tried and true ways of a lot of things, but I also am not afraid to experiment, because if this doesn't work, they were gonna go in the fire pit anyhow. So that's it. I hope you enjoyed this garden tour. As I said, it is a hot mess out here. I wanted to encourage you to get out there and start, maybe not bite off this much all at once, but I want to make a video progress of the gardening out here, so you can really see, you know, that you can do this. I have zero experience gardening, and I used to kill our office plant. So, you know, you really can do this, but just take it one step at a time. And hopefully you'll be back to check out me and Bear in our gardening, and hopefully we have some things growing next time. And thanks, bye.